Okay people, so we got some major bombshells to talk about, huge reveals in the latest chapter of My Hero Academia, chapter 304, but also some big inferred reveals because something major, humongous, that was kind of sort of revealed but not really in 304 needs to be discussed regarding the final two holders of One for All. This is something that I'm not even gonna lie, I've been itching and dying to talk about with this video, so I was like, yo, let me fire up this camera and this microphone, let's get to it. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a couple weeks. I'm gonna quickly go over a couple of the other events that happened in the manga because, yeah, a lot to say. So without further ado, people, it's been a little bit, but let's talk some of that My Hero Academia greatness! Baby, we gonna talk.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
So chapter 304 of My Hero Academia felt like the biggest plot progression, the biggest reveals we've had in quite some time. The last few chapters, the last couple of months, I would even say, have for the most part focused in on the Todoroki family tragedy, getting everything that happened with Toya, leading up to what Endeavor did, and all of that stuff. So it really focused in on that, and to be honest with you, that's one of the main reasons why I haven't covered the My Hero Academia manga the last couple of weeks. I want to say 301, if I'm not mistaken, was the last chapter that I covered, just because it started getting a little too heavy for me. Like, after 301, I thought like, okay, you know, maybe we'll just get the revelation of how Dabi exactly came out of that fire and shit like that, but it kind of kept on going into it, and it wasn't bad material. It was actually really good, but it was just really heavy. So I was like, let me just wait a little bit, let it simmer down, let's wrap this thing up, and then once we get to something else, I'll talk. And here I am. Because for the most part, chapter 302 was really just, again, showcasing Toya's descent into madness. It was like a 5-year time skip. He was still secretly training, unbeknownst to Endeavor. Endeavor caught him and was like, yo, what's going on? And it just showed the dysfunction between all of them, how the mother started to really hate Endeavor so much that she was seeing Endeavor in the children's faces and things like that. And it's kind of giving a reason behind everything. Don't get me wrong, Endeavor was a monster, and chapter 302 really demonstrated like, yo, his anger when he would find shit out. He was a monster, but the mom wasn't innocent either. She started really getting a little, honestly, sick in the head because she just kept on seeing like, yo, this guy, this monster, and then seeing him in the kids and shit. It was overwhelming for her. But I do gotta say one thing in all of that, and it's not that I want to defend Endeavor, but it just felt a little bit obvious to me. When Endeavor said he couldn't find the words to tell Toya, I think it's because he couldn't find the words for himself. And what I mean by that is Toya's obsession of wanting to prove to his father and not giving up. How could somebody like Endeavor that didn't know how to give up tell somebody else how to give up, how to stop? So I think that's one of the main reasons why he didn't have the right words to tell Toya all those times where he kept on training secretly even after everything, because how can he even follow your example when he knows that you're still very much so obsessed with something that you won't give up despite the fact that you're destroying your family? So really, really powerful stuff with 302. And then Dabi saying all Dad ever taught me was how to turn up the heat. So it was just showcasing yet again even further examples of everybody that had their hand in what happened in the catastrophe that led from Toya to Dabi. And it ended with a touching moment of the mom saying that Shoto is the family's hero, and kind of moving forward of Shoto telling the father like, yo, we're gonna take him down together. And then 303 was kind of putting Hawks more into the whole midst of the situation, him trying to understand a little bit more about Endeavor. They were basically overhearing everything anyway, but then him coming up with the idea of let's make a 3-man team. So Hawks, Best Genius, and Endeavor are going to be like a 3-man team to try to clean up the city, to clean up everywhere that the criminals are destroying, because right now it's absolutely chaos out there between people trying to be vigilantes to save things and the villains going nuts from all these prisoners that were released. So yeah, they got their hands filled, but it was a big setup in that chapter. And also a big setup as well of kind of revealing that there's big heroes outside of just Japan. Like there's #1 heroes all around the world, which in the shadowing that we seen, like, you know, the silhouettes of them, one of them kind of looked like a mixture of like, I don't know, like a Whitebeard-esque type of character. Kind of reminded me when we first started hearing about the Yonko in One Piece and shit like that. So I kind of got excited like, yo, if we do go to a time skip or eventually a point where heroes from around the world start coming, it's going to be interesting to see like what's the big baddie of the USA, who's the big, you know, enchilada of Australia. Like that sounds really dope. And them questioning about One for All, and is it connected to All for One? What's that about? So it seems as though potentially at at the very least, a few more people are going to learn the secret of One for All, which I think at this point, it needs to be, for the most part, apparent of what that is. Maybe not to the general public, but to a lot of the people in the know, especially these people that are trying to be like the last-ditch effort to save the city before it completely goes to ruins. And then that one ended off with Deku in a dream, All Might saying, yo, I want to be alone with him, because right there, Deku is talking to, once again, the predecessors in the Vestige. And okay, I know that was very long-winded, but now that we got all that out the way, we got to talk about 304, one of the biggest chapters in a really long time. Because it starts off with All Might there, with Deku unconscious, and he's like, yo, I could feel One for All is activated right now. He's probably talking to the Vestige, like I could feel the me that's in there, which is really weird that there's a piece of All Might technically in Deku, like kind of a consciousness, so to speak, which was very much so clarified later on in the chapter. And cementing yet again Deku's characterization of just how much of a real hero he is. He's going through peril, he's unconscious, talking to the Vestige, and the thoughts that is going to his mind as he's unconscious is, and I hope everyone's okay. Like, fam, I hope you're okay. And then we cut to a scene, very beautifully done. The art on there, Horikoshi was cooking. He was cooking, because we see a scene of Deku once again in the Vestige, and there's a bunch of like royal king looking chairs, and all of the predecessors except two are sitting in chairs. You got Nana, you got the guy from the Black Whip, you got all of the predecessors of One for All sitting around, because they say, hey, we need to have a chat with you before you wake up again. But one of the big things that I wanted to talk to you guys about in this video, which we're going to talk about everything, is the two that are not in chairs and are very awkwardly turned around staring at the wall. Like, mad questions went through my head when I was looking at that, and to be honest with you, I've kind of been obsessing the last couple of days over that page in particular, because even when we get the close-ups is of the back of their heads of them staring at the wall. Why the hell are they staring at the wall? Why are they not in front of Deku? I mean, to me, if it looks like a duck, smells like a duck, quacks like a duck, that's Bakugo and Kirishima. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. I'm sure some people have talked about this already, but it looked clear as day from the back. It looked like Bakugo, how he has the two things on his arms, his tools to blow shit up, and then Kirishima from the back just looks like his hairs maybe got tied, but that straight up looks like them. So the big question, if that truly is them, which again, I could be totally wrong, it could be somebody else or whatever, is what the hell is Bakugo and Kirishima doing in there? Clearly up until this point, we've seen Bakugo learning little by little about One for All. It was Deku that revealed One for All to him to begin with, and Kirishima up until this point has no idea about One for All. So how the hell would they be two predecessors on top of that of One for All? And the only thing that comes to my mind, to be honest with you, is time travel, which I'm a big fan of time travel. I know there's a lot of people that aren't. I love and I'm fascinated by that. The future arc in Katekyo Hitman Reborn is one of my favorite arcs. I love that shit, especially if it's done very well in an intriguing manner and shit like that. I am all on top of time travel. And for that to work, it would have to be that possibly somebody had a time traveling quirk or something like that, and eventually maybe things in a certain timeline didn't work out so well. Maybe there was already a timeline where all of this occurred, Deku versus Shigaraki, all of this went down, and potentially somebody did a time travel, or Bakugo and Kirishima were able to time travel thanks to some potential ability and come back, and at that particular point in their timeline, for whatever reason, maybe Deku had passed on or shared One for All with them, and that's how they became predecessors, and that's why they're hiding their faces, because if they show their faces, Deku is going to ask questions, and that could disrupt the timeline. Which, I know that sounds trippy, but that's the only way at the moment anyway that I could think of that would make sense as to why potentially Bakugo and Kirishima would be, you know, predecessors. Either that or they sent themselves. Like, there's so many endless possibilities, but I am almost certain that that has to be them. Why would they be hiding and concealing their identity, standing against the wall, not even talking? And their designs and shit, like, holy cow, I'm so freaking pumped about this. Like, just seeing that page was amazing. But there's also been advancement. Thanks to All for One and him dragging them out and shit like that, they're capable more, on top of the fact that Deku has progressed and whatnot, they're capable more of interacting with each other. It's not just little spurts like before. Now they could actually have full-on conversations, and even Deku, he has like a little bit of a mouth now to be able to talk, because before, remember, he would just be there like trapped and not being able to say anything or interact with them. Now he can slightly interact a little more, which honestly, it kind of feels like I'm watching like a RPG or some shit, where little by little certain elements are being unlocked, so you're having more capabilities of doing things in certain areas that you didn't have access to before. Like, yeah, it feels real trippy. Like, imagine a full-blown, high-quality, high-budgeted JRPG of My Hero Academia in this scale. Oh my god. And then we get the huge bombshells, because it wasn't only my theory that was a major bombshell, which doesn't even feel like a theory, to be honest with you, but Hikage Shinomori, one big reveal that he says is that he died of old age. And when you ask, well, how old? 40 years old. What the hell? And apparently in his time he was a hermit, and he knew with his powers at that time that he had no capability of taking down All For One or any of the enemies that he had. So rather than go out there and risk his life, he decided to use the opportunity to use his life to train up and be stronger, so that when he passes on One For All, everybody else will have more strength. But the big reveal as well about One For All, which makes it that Deku's probably going to be the last man standing in terms of passing on One For All, hopefully in this timeline, assuming the whole time travel theory is legit, is the fact that if you have more than one quirk, basically it eats away at you and you die. And that's why Hikage Shinomori died at 40 years old, and it was All Might that figured that out, which a lot of playing around with the timeline to a certain degree to make a lot of this make sense. All Might was quirkless, and he got the quirk, and that's how he was able to live a long time and still be alive, because he didn't have a quirk. And then it also just kind of lucked out that he passed it to Deku. But when he passed it to Deku, it wasn't that he at that time knew that, like, oh, he's quirkless, so it'll be perfect. In fact, it was kind of like a gamble, because up until this point it was said that he was going to pass it on to Medio, and yo, Medio, you dodged a bullet, fam, because you will be dead as a doornail in a couple of decades if you didn't dodge that. So now a lot of us Medio fans are like, oh shit, we almost got destroyed off this. But I'll just keep it real. I think to a certain degree that portion wasn't planned out early on in the series. I think this was a more recent addition, and recent could be within the last couple years, last year, whatever it is, but I don't think that this was completely planned out. It just seems like too many things that, oh, well, it was a coincidence that he went with Deku. He didn't think to himself when he gave the power to Deku, like, oh, he's quirkless, this will work perfectly. Like, that wasn't in his thought process. And I mean, they said that he wasn't sure of this theory anyway about why Hikage Shinomori died early, but it kind of made logical sense. And again, it just was never mentioned. So even though it kind of feels like it works, it does feel a little bit squeezed in there. And I also love the fact that the cracks on his face was what showcased to him that Hikage Shinomori was dying, which I think that's like a new craze in Shonen Jump, of like the cracks on the face. Ever since Dr. Stone did it and it looked so cool, now we got Marshall, we got a few different series are utilizing that, and hey, why not? It looks cool. And then we get another revelation in this one as well, that apparently what's inside of One For All, yeah, it is definitely the consciousness of the quirk, and All Might is the only one that actually put some of his physical consciousness into there. Everyone else is just like the quirk that holds a piece of them within it, but it was All Might that put his own actual consciousness into One For All, which I wonder if that actually gave it an even bigger boost, because it's not just like a quirk. Well, then again, he didn't have a quirk. It's actually him, his personality, his, you know, vibe, so to speak. And then the chapter ended off in a very, very major way with Nana asking Deku, would you be able to kill Shigaraki Tomura, which is very heavy in so many different aspects. For starters, that's her grandson that she's basically saying, hey, you think you could pretty please kill my grandson, mate? So very heavy stuff there, on top of the fact that she's asking a hero that's not on his motto or his way of doing things to kill Shigaraki, which I'm imagining Deku's major response is going to be something along the lines of, I'm not going to kill him, I'm going to stop him, I'm going to save him. I think he needs saving, and that's what I'm going to do, because that's what a true hero does. So I think that's where his resolve is going to go, because that's part of Deku's character. And he, from the moment he said when he saw Shigaraki's eyes as he was being dragged away that he needed saving, that's going to be where we're moving forward. Which, if you kind of think about it, reminds you of like how Naruto versus Sasuke, like they would tell Naruto, you got to kill Sasuke, and he's like, no, I'm going to save him. So kind of maybe some influence there, I don't know, but I think that's the way it's going to go. And overall, that's going to be a big thing moving forward, which again, he's going to essentially, probably, I'm imagining, kill All For One, because All For One, no matter how many times they locked him up, how many times they try to stop him, he keeps coming back. He needs to die, not Shigaraki. And if you get rid of the All For One within Shigaraki's mind, and then you get rid of the actual All For One, there we go. The big problem that's been plaguing the My Hero Academia universe for I don't know how long now, what, decades, centuries, some shit like that, will be sorted out. Another thing I was wondering, because they said that like basically Deku is the last person that's going to be, you know, he's going to be the last wielder of One For All. It was still said that there was like 15% of the world that didn't have quirks. quirks. But I guess you take into effect like, okay, there's 15% of the world that doesn't have quirks, and then how many of those people are gonna want to actually be heroes, and how many people are gonna have that drive. So I guess it does make sense why, like, yeah, he should be the last wielder, because he was a once in a lifetime opportunity that kind of went perfectly with the whole one for all thing of giving this quirk to somebody that's quirkless, because if they have a quirk, it eats alive at them. Which, if Bakugo and Kirishima are in there as well, did they die of old age in their timeline, or were they just killed anyway? Like, there's so many questions if that is actually legit. I really want to know what you guys think about that. Who the hell are those final two people? Is it my theory that that's Bakugo and Kirishima, and somehow, some way they traveled back in time, and that's why they passed one for all on? Or is it going maybe into the canon of the movie where Bakugo had, because technically now that movie is very messy. Heroes Rising, how Bakugo had the quirk, because now Bakugo in that movie's timeline, if that was canonical, he would be within one for all anyways. And your thoughts on all of this madness that is going on right now? Deku, the final holder of one for all. Bakugo and Kirishima, potentially, again, maybe it could be totally different people, are the final holders of one for all. Your thoughts on it killing somebody that already has a quirk? Like, to be honest with you, it does feel a little bit wedged in there. It does feel like things kind of fit, but still not really, because again, All Might never mentioned this. I would argue probably Horikoshi came up with that idea the time All Might was actually writing down the list of everybody, and how he scribbled out that one part of Hikage Shinomori, because again, he was uncertain. So I think probably that's around the time Horikoshi came up with this idea. And your overall thoughts and expectations for the My Hero Academia manga with chapter 305 and beyond. Woo! This is insane. That's all I have for this one though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life. Bye. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and yo, one for all, baby. This is getting real. Like, biggest chapter in a long time of this series.
So just go to